Fantastic Four 2, Rise of the Silver Surfer. So, I never actually reviewed the original Fantastic Four movie, but my kind of memories of it is it was perfectly serviceable as a popcorn movie. I mean, it wasn't great, but you know, just as a mindless superhero movie, it did its job. And that's basically how I feel about this sequel as well. It's pretty forgettable, but it's watchable enough, you know. I mean, a little bit dry, but I don't know. Just bring some popcorn, munch on some sweets or something like that. It's serviceable enough. I'm not really quite so familiar with the Fantastic Four comic book. I mean, I'm vaguely aware of their place in comic book history, but I've never really read the comics as a kid. So I can't really comment on the tone or how they got the superheroes right or wrong. I understand people who know their stuff, are really into the Fantastic Four, were quite upset with this movie. But I largely enjoyed it. I thought the addition of the Silver Surfer helped to keep things interesting. It's no classic, but it's a very quickly forgettable movie, but I thought it was entertaining while I was watching it. Actually, at the time I watched this movie, I had just gotten off this nostalgia kick, where for whatever reason I was feeling nostalgic for movies from my childhood, and I rented a bunch of movies from the 1980s. Star Wars is late 70s, but the Star Wars trilogy, Indiana Jones, The Goonies, was watching all of these movies, the Richard Donner Superman movies. And yeah, I guess maybe because I was kind of coming out fresh from all these 1980s movies, when I saw this movie, the Fantastic Four 2, I thought, wow, you know, like, here this is. This is just kind of a easily forgettable superhero movie, chock full with another kind of summer full of action movies. But like, if you could somehow, the action scenes in this movie were so much more amazing than anything I grew up with as a kid. I thought if you could somehow like take this movie back in time to the 1980s and like show it to the kids of the 1980s, it would have completely blown them away. I mean, this would have been the hugest hit ever. Now, maybe that's kind of a stupid thing to say, because like maybe that's just like saying if you took a computer from nowadays and brought it back to the 1980s, it would blow them away. Or, you know, if you took a video game from nowadays and brought it back to the 1980s, it would blow them away. Like, obviously, things have improved with increased technology. But I don't know. I tend to judge movies a little bit differently, maybe, because movies, well, the technology has increased, but it's not all about technology, right? It is just kind of a sign of kind of how filmmaking as a whole has just gotten more intense, more adrenaline filled. Yeah. Sorry, all that being said, I guess that is kind of a silly observation to make, but that's what struck me as I was watching the movie. Perfectly forgettable, and yet much more intense than any of the superhero or action movies I grew up with as a kid. I did have a friend who commented on my review. He said, this movie was so bad, my friend and I actually had to invent an incest subtext, the Invisible Girl Human Torch, to keep ourselves awake. The screenwriters and actors left several such clues dangling, more out of sheer lameness and incompetence than anything. For example, did you notice the not-so-sisterly way she cradles his head when they hug at the end of the movie? So there you go. I'll throw that out there. That's actually not my original observation. That's a comment somebody posted on my original review, but yeah, there you go.